Hi, good day, everyone. As you are rolling in, welcome to this session on OneNote Class Notebook. Just to let you know that in terms of the way we're going to run this one today, there's a bit of hands-on for me doing bits and pieces and then showing you some other stuff as well. So it's going to be jumping a little bit between screens and hopefully that'll work really well. Okay, Maria. And we're going to finish on time. We kind of started a bit late. We had a few technical issues. Never worked with technology or young children or animals. So we've got no young children or animals, but we're working with tech. So sorry about the slight delay, and we're going to kind of compress this one a little bit, but we'll be good. It'll all be good. So for me, I'm a teacher that used OneNote in my classroom a lot, and Class Notebook was just starting to be in a way that was really, really good to use, but not to its full capacity it is now. So now we've got some stuff in there that's just superb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going through a bit of a slide deck and show you bits and pieces as we roll through. And hopefully as we go, you'll be able to pick up a few bits and pieces. Now, I mentioned earlier in the first kind of blurb that we had that we will have some notes on this whole thing at the end. And the notes that I'm going to give you are going to be able to be used later. So there's a whole lot of links and things like that that you can use. So feel free to jump in and ase them whenever you need to. So let me just jump into sharing my screen. Let's have a look at how this thing rolls here. So we've got one. I'm an ex-teacher, ex-maths teacher, and so hopefully this will tick a few boxes. If you're a maths teacher, fantastic. So Class Notebook sits inside OneNote and it does some really, really nice things. So if you've ever played around with OneNote, OneNote is like a digital ring binder. I've got all my sections in it and I can have my pages and I can separate it and I can organize it. Because it's digital, it means it's endless, which means for me, I can write and keep on going forever in any direction. And for kids, it means they can write on it as well if they've got a device that allows them to ink. So for me, the big tick thing is that OneNote is just a really, really cool way of being able to manage the way in which I can work. So we're going to look at how to make a class notebook, and we're going to do it from OneDrive as well as from Teams. We're going to look at the different sections inside of a class notebook when we build it out, chat a bit about workflow, and then jump into how you can actually manage your student workflow in terms of viewing student work, sending out assignments, marking work and giving it back and giving feedback. Now, because we started a bit late, I'm going to probably zip through some stuff a little bit quicker than what you would kind of normally do. But in the notes, there's a whole lot of little bits and pieces to show you how to get through these steps as well. So I've tried to kind of cover everything that I could possibly in that area. So let's have a bit of a squiz at how this all works. As a teacher, we are used to planning some stuff, maybe adjusting it and assessing it as we go, then reflecting on it and then changing it again and keep on going through this circle over and over again as we do our work. If we can kind of put that into a digital world where we can do that in a document or an environment where we as teachers can manage this whole cycle, but also be able to improve every time we go around it, then that's it's a win for everyone. And that is how OneNote Class Notebook works. So when you first open up Class Notebook, it looks kind of like this. Now, there are 3 versions of OneNote if you're used to playing with OneNote. There's the browser version, which lives in your browser and runs automatically in your browser for you. The experience is really good inside the browser. So, if you think, oh my goodness, I need to have the app on my machine, or I've got a Mac, I haven't got a PC, how's it all going to work for me? Well, trust me that it works really nicely when you are using it as a browser-based option. Now, on the left-hand side, you will see that you've got all these tabs. Now, these tabs down here, I'll just go across one little cursor and see if I can show you. Here we go. These tabs down here are like the tabs that you have inside a ring binder. And then across here, you have your pages. Now, you can have as many pages as you want and as many tabs as you want. If you are using the Windows 10 app version, it looks exactly like this. If you're using the Microsoft Desktop 2016 version, it will look slightly different. The tabs won't be down the side, they'll be across the top. But the same functionality is in all those 3 platforms. So today I'm demonstrating browser version and might even jump onto the desktop version if we've got time as well. So down the left-hand side in a class notebook, as opposed to a normal OneNote notebook, we have some other sections. We have a thing called the collaboration space. We have a thing called the content library. And depends where you've built it, you will have a teacher-only space. And then down the bottom, you'll have all your students. Now, this collaboration space up here is exactly what collaboration space means, that when we create this, all the students can be in there and work collaboratively on that page or on those pages. So it's kind of like a massive whiteboard. Kids can work on it, and it's controlled by you as a teacher. You can see what's going on. The kids can see what's going on. But if a student deletes something or moves something around, you can't control that. The next section down is the content library. And this is what I kind of, I like to think of this as more like a section which is like a view only. So they can look at it through the glass. Like students can't destroy, for use of a better word, the material there, but you can then use that material to demonstrate, and it can be a read-only spot for them. It's a really nice way of going. Underneath it is the teacher-only spot. Now, this teacher-only spot will appear if you build a OneNote out of Microsoft Teams, and I'll show you what that looks like in a tick. And that is bits where you can set up some work that you're working on, no one else can see it, which is really good. So students can see the collaboration space, students can see the content library, students cannot see the teacher-only space. The next one down, you'll see the first person there is Ernie. Ernie is a student in this class. Now, Ernie can see Ernie's work, he can see the collaboration space, and he can see the content library, but he can't see anyone else. So if you've got 30 kids in the class, Ernie will only see his bit, but you'll be able to see every student. In a tick, I'm going to show you what it looks like from a student point of view and show you in a dummy class or a pretend class that we made up. To access Class Notebook, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can jump into O365 and go to your apps, and it may not appear on all your apps. So you just click on the little tab down the bottom. It'll be over here where it will say, oops, I've lost my little mouse again. Come back. There we go. It'll be down here. It will say all apps. If you click on all apps, then it will pop out and you'll see Class Notebooks down here, but it's also up here as well. So it's one of those things where you just got to kind of keep an eye out where it is, because it's kind of living, oops, daisy, I went wrong way. Come back a bit. It's kind of living in two spots. And if you start a Class Notebook here, it looks slightly different than if you build it inside your Microsoft Teams. But now we're going to jump out of this window, and I'm going to go and show you a browser tab, and I'm going to jump into a browser tab and start showing you what that looks like for us as well. So let me just share my browser. So I'm going to jump into a different browser altogether, and this is going to be just an absolute nightmare. You watch this, it's going to go completely belly up. You watch, but we'll be right. Cool. So I'm going to come across to my teacher account here. So here's my Microsoft, here's all my apps that I have. And I've got in here my OneNote, and I've got Class Notebook or Staff Notebook sitting in here as well. Now the experience in this is the same as in here. I just get a couple of different pages. So if I go to Class Notebook and open that up, I'll take a couple of secs. They'll ask me to sign in, of course. Always ask me to sign in, even though I signed in before. Here we go. Yay. And what it's going to say is it's going to say, hey, you're going to build a Class Notebook for me. And this is the way it's going to look. You're going to create a Class Notebook. You can add and remove students. You can add and remove teachers, and then you can manage your notebooks. Okay, cool. So let me just show you what it looks like when you start building one out. And then I'm going to jump into one I've already got built in Microsoft Teams. So I open this one up here. I've got to name it. Now, just think a little bit about your naming. Is that it gets a bit confusing if you've got the same thing. If you've got 5 biology classes and you call each class biology, it gets a tad confusing. I used to use the code that I had in my timetable, and that was the code I'd use to be able to make sure that my kids knew it was the right group, and so it's easy for them to find. So I'm just going to call this demo delete, because I'm going to delete it at the end. Go next. And as it's going along, it comes and tells me this is what you're going to have. You're going to have a collaboration space, you're going to have a content library, you're going to have a teacher-only section, and you're going to have student notebooks. Yay, which is great. I knew that anyway, but it tells me again. Come to the next page, I can then add in another teacher. So if I'm team teaching, or I've got a student teacher or a replacement teacher, I can add them in as a teacher as well, and they'll have access to everything. It's really, really handy if you're going on long service leave or you have to take leave for a certain while. You can bring another teacher into it, or if you're in like in a primary school, you might have 2 or 3 teachers teaching the same class. It'll work beautifully in this spot. Works lovely. So I'm not going to add any teachers there because I'm going to be like that. I can add student names, but I can also do that later if I want to. But I know that I've got a student called James in this environment, and hopefully it'll come up with James Hobbs. There we go. I'm going to add James into there. I'm only going to have one kid in my class, the dream class. And then I come to the next section where it says, okay, for your kids, they're going to get a ring binder. They're going to have a whole lot of sections. What kind of sections do you want to have in there? Now, by default, it gives us these 4. It gives us handouts, class notes, homework, and quizzes. Now, you can change that and you can add to it, but you can also add afterwards. So if suddenly you've got this built and you're working along and you go, oh my goodness, I should have added so-and-so, you can still do that in here. So don't worry about that. You can still add it later, which is good. I'm going to get rid of quizzes because I don't want to do that. If I then go next, it'll preview it and show me what it looks like from my point of view. And then I can do the next one and I can do it from the student point of view. So I've got the both ways I can actually do it, which is quite good. If I then go create, it'll then build this out and it'll set it up for me. It takes a couple of seconds and we're all tickety-boo ready to go. So it's built it. It hasn't got all your students in there. You can add them in later if you want to. Some schools will allow you to bring them in as a group. So you just type the year 8 group and the whole thing will come through. So depending on how many kids you're adding and how many sections you've got and those things is how long it will take to build. But you've got to do that manual entry. Hence, why I really like to use Microsoft Teams for my class notebook, because inside my class team, it will automatically build for me a class notebook and add and manage all the kids as we go. So check this out. I'm going to jump out of this window, which is just, I've built a class notebook inside my OneDrive. Now I'm going to jump into here, which is in my Microsoft Teams. And I've got a class here that I've just, a demo class that I've made up. And inside the General tab in Microsoft Teams, you have a thing called Class Notebook. And the great thing about this is if I add students to my class, my Class Notebook already automatically grabs them, adds them in there, and they have all the same sections, pages, all those kind of things that everyone else has. It's automatically added to them. It's done automatically. It's fantastic. So I don't have to worry about that. I can add another teacher to the team. They'll get added as a teacher to the Class Notebook. So it's a really good way of managing. And also it lives inside my team, so everything is really fluid and works. So I just love it. So if I click on my little tab here, and it only appears, in the general channel. In my other channels, if I come through here and I go to notes, that will create a OneNote note page for that channel and lob it straight into the Class Notebook. So it does that automatically for me, so I don't have to worry about trying to work out where anything is. So let me come back to my general channel and jump in here, and this is why I like it so much. If I go Class Notebook in here and open it up, it will open up like a OneNote notebook inside my Microsoft Teams. Once it's opened up, it'll say, what do you want to do? Do you want to edit it right here, or do you want to blow it out and use it inside the browser? So I'm going to open it in the browser. And I can also open it in the desktop app if I want, but I'm going to go open in browser, go that way. And it just opens up another browser page and brings in OneNote there ready for me to use. So it's about to come in a minute. Here we go. Once again, it's going to ask me, do you want to come into here? Yes, I do. Are you the person that we think you are? Yes, I am. And it will sign me in. Cool. So now I've got this booklet. So how do I manage? At the moment, it's just a OneNote book that you might have looked at before and think, well, that's great, but I can't, it's not different to anything else. What makes this so special? Let me show you some stuff. So what I've done is I've got over here a collaboration space. I've got my content library. I've got James as a student and Joni, two students. They're fantastic people. Only got 2 kids in my class. So in my content library, what I've built out here is some handouts and some Egyptian maths, which I've built out already inside OneNote. And you'll see I've got some stuff there. I've got some images in there. And I've also got a really good thing in my handouts. I've got a handout here where I've got a bit of a task. And then I've also got a nice bike building XP as well about how to build a bike. So I've got some things I'd like to share with my students. So this is like I've made an assignment and I'm about to punch it out. In the new iteration, when you create a OneNote class notebook now, when you open it up inside Teams, you'll have a teacher-only space in here as well. But this was built before that function was added. Anyway, so you might be thinking, you showed me teacher-only space. Why isn't it there now? So let's pretend that what I'd like to do is this Egyptian maths page here, my problem 5, I'd like to send them to James and Joni. I'd like to distribute it. So I'd like to go photocopy it. So what you'd normally do in real life, you'd go along to the photocopy room, put your bit of paper down, photocopy it, give it to all your kids. and depending on the age of the kids, they'll probably lose it. So you give them another one, and then they'll lose it again, and you give them another one. And then you've got to get it to market, so they've got to hand it back to you. And then once you get it back, what do you do with it? You've got a big stack of paper, then you go home, and then you go back again. You can't see what they're doing unless you're actually overlooking their shoulder to see what they're working on. But in OneNote, I can do that all electronically and see how it's going on. Now, Travis kind of hinted at that in his talk. So let's have a look at how I do it. Up the top here, I've got the normal tabs that I have inside OneNote, but then I've got one called Class Notebook. When I open that, it looks slightly different. It comes up and says, hey, do you want to distribute a page? Do you want to distribute a new section? Do you want to copy content library, review student work, blah, 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 blah. And all these other things I can do. I'm really want to do this one here. I want to distribute a page, which is this page here. And what I'd like to do is distribute it to individuals. Now, I can actually set it up in groups as well. So I can set groups up and differentiate so that red group, blue group, green group all get something slightly different. I can still punch it out from the same spot and they can all still see it, but then I can actually have a slightly different task depending on what I'm trying to do to differentiate easily. The thing I like about that is for all the kids, it looks exactly the same. The experience is exactly the same, and we're not singling anyone out. So we can do that really nicely inside OneNote. Now, also embedded inside OneNote, which we won't touch on here, is the assistive learning technologies tools. So the ability to voice control and speak, type, and get it to read to you, and all those things are built in here, so that can happen for all your kids as well. Anyway, so now I'm here. So if I go individual distribution, it's going to come up here, and on the right-hand side, it will pull up the kids in my class. It'll say, okay, who do you want to distribute to? Do you want to do it to everyone or whatever? So as you can see, I've only got 2 kids. I'm going to pick both, which is great. James and Janie. And then if I go next, it's going to say, okay, that's great. Where do you want it to go? So I'm going to put it into, it's going to be a homework problem. So if I put it into homework, then go distribute, what that will now do is in the background, it's going to photocopy my page. It's then going to give it to Janie and James, and it will appear in their workspace. So in a tick, it's doing it. It takes a couple of seconds. You can jump out of that window if you've got a big class. You don't have to sit there and watch it. So once it's there, let me just come back into here, close that down. I can jump into James's notebook and just make sure it's there. I put it into his homework page. If I open up, there is his homework. It's been added to him as well. So that's the way I get to see it. So what does it look like from James's point of view? Let me come to James. I'm going to open up James now, and I've got him sneakily added in here. And so he's here, he's having a great time. He can come to his class notebook. He can open up his class notebook, which will open up in just a tick. And he will see the piece of work that I've just given him. So what I want to do is I want him to do a bit of work on it so I can see what's going on. So this is the view the student gets. Give it a tick as it kind of rolls in. There we go. He's going to come down to, and notice that he says James, but he doesn't see Janie. So he sees James, comes into here. And I've got some homework because Mr. Francis said we're going to have some homework. Here we go. There it is. Beautiful. So he's now got the ability in here to work on this task. Now he can type, and if he's got the capacity to digitally ink, he can digitally ink on it as well. It's just going to sign me in again. There we go. Beautiful. 2 seconds caller as it lobs in. There we go. So now he's got the work that he's doing. Looks pretty cool. Okay, yeah. It takes a couple of seconds to load up. Yeah, got it. Cool. Got on that. Beautiful. So I'd like to edit this here. So all I do is edit in the browser, and I've now got full editing in here as well. I can also ink on the screen. So he could be doing some work here like this and going, this is great. Now I'm kind of writing really badly. I draw a little picture like that, and it's really happy. So James is working away like that. It's absolutely fantastic. For me as a teacher, I can jump in and see how James is going. So I can come into here, come back to my little tab now, and jump in as my teacher. Here we go. And I am in, there's my teacher one. There we go. I'm in James's page, and this is the work he's doing here. So you can see that I can see it live at any stage, which is really quite handy. So I can actually give him feedback and things in here as well. A couple of things that I really like about OneNote. Now I've got 5 minutes to go, so I'm going to start drawing away here. But OneNote Class Notebook means I can actually give feedback to James really quickly. I can either ink on the screen if I want to, so I can open it up and I can ink on the screen and write on there if I want to. I can come to here with my teacher red pen and grab a spot and just go like that, and that'll be live in James's page as well. So as we are writing and inking, it's the same document we are writing together. But this means I can quickly go through my entire class and see what's going on and give feedback at any stage. And I'll show you how to do that in just a smidge. What I'd like to show you is this. If I come to the Insert tab, I can insert audio on my page, which means that I can give James audio feedback. So I can click on it and go, James, this is looking really good. I love the way you're doing this, but you might want to work on this aspect of your work. I can give him audio feedback and he can give me audio feedback again. The audio will stay inside the OneNote page. And if I ink at the same time as I'm talking, every time I do an inking movement, it timestamps it against the audio. And then all that James will have to do is come to the spot on the OneNote that he needs to work on. There'll be a play button next to it. If he plays it, the audio will relate to exactly where that cursor is at that time. So it's a great way of giving feedback really quickly on the fly and really meaningful feedback rather than giving them feedback at the end of a task, which I kind of find being kind of a bit useless. So what does it look like if I want to see all my class? Because if I had 30 kids here and I wanted to go through each of the kids, it's going to be a bit of a pain because, oh my goodness, I've got to go to Fred's page, open it up, Brian's page, open up, Belinda's page, Mia's page. I keep on going through like that. But what I can do is in Class Notebook in here, I can come into here and see how it says Review Student Work. If I click on my Review Student Work, it goes, okay, let's have a look at the kids in the class. You're lucky, you've got 2. What would you like to review? I want to look at the homework because I know they're working on that homework. And then it will say, okay, what page do you want to review? Because there's a whole lot of pages in that homework section. Which page do you want to review? So I'm going to grab problem 5 and go next. And what it does is it enables me to lock that page so students can not change anything when I'm marking it, which is really good when you get to that final bit of that assessment. You want to have formative comments all the way through, and right at the end, you want to just wrap it up. That's where you can do that here, which is really, really handy. Anyway, so I've got that. I'm looking pretty cool. I can lock the page, but if I jump into James's page here, it's good. I'm going to swap names around well. That's okay. I like that. And then I can jump between James's page, jump to Joni's, and it will then go to that as well. So Jan jumps to Joni's. So she's got nothing written there. If I jump back to James, it opens up his page really quickly, and I can add some notes like that as well. So I can quickly go through and review what's going on. It's a really, really handy tool. It's a really nice way of being able to do it. I can also manage, which I haven't got time to show you, but I just want to do a bit of a teaser, that inside Microsoft Teams is the capacity to manage assignments. Now, if I manage assignments inside here, I can send out a OneNote page as an assignment, which I can attach a rubric to and a markbook to, and I can see all my students' work in one page really quickly, whether it be it a Microsoft Word document, a PowerPoint they're working on that I've set in as an assignment, or even a page out of OneNote can be managed through assignments. Now, that is fantastic because it gives me one spot to be able to see everything. So that we haven't got time to jump into that today, but that's a really, really good tool to be able to manage the way in which students can actually see and access the work, and you as a teacher can see and access the work as well. So that's pretty cool. Now, let me just jump back to my little PowerPoint here, and I'm just going to jump into, let me close that one down there. Cool. I'll just come to this one here and come back into here. There we go. Cool. And if I go like this, that'll be a bit better so you can see that as well. So, there we go. Here it comes live. Lovely. So as we're wrapping up here, a couple of things is that every one of the workshops we're running tonight is linked into a Microsoft course. And if you haven't been into the Microsoft Education Center or the MEC, then there are all these courses that you can do. But what we've done is because we have registered as a Microsoft event, you guys can use this code here to get the time allocated for this workshop. Now, unfortunately, the minimum time we can offer you is an hour, so you get an hour's credit straight away. But if you go into the MEC, join up, click on your name and your profile, you can then add this code into the session that you've just, into your MEC, sorry, and it will be given to you as credit. So on this page, we've got a link to the utb.fyi/MEC. That will take you to the Microsoft Educator Center. If you've never been there before and you go, oh my goodness, how do I sign up? How do I enter a code? How do I redeem a code? The utb.fyi MEC info will give you that information as well. So it's a really handy one. I'll drop that in the chat at the end as well, those two codes. And then the last thing is, if you want to be in the running for a big prize, we've got a $250 voucher from Noel Leeming. We've got access for your whole school to all our online Learn On Demand courses for a year. We've got 3 sets of headphones, and we've got some other online courses from Using Technology Better as well. If you want to be part of that, jump onto that link, that utb.fyi Microsoft Immersion, exactly the way it's written, capitals, dashes, all that kind of stuff. And that will give you the ability to go into the draw for that.